Your life, your world, your news. This is 69 News, live at 10.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Davis.
And I'm Rick Holmes. A wintry mix hit the area today, bringing snow and a lot of slush with it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if we're going to see more of this in the next couple of days. Clayton Stiver is in the Weather Center with our first look at the forecast.
Yeah, Wendy, Rick, outside of maybe a couple flurries, a snow shower here, things are looking pretty dry, I'd say, over the next few days. Now, as we look at our current conditions tonight, our steadier precipitation from earlier today, pretty much gone now. Still could be a stray sprinkle or a flurry out here tonight, but all in all, just kind of a mostly cloudy sky. Temperatures right now in the middle upper 30s. You'll find some colder spots across higher terrain of the Poconos. The wind will start to pick up here a little bit later on as our Clipper system, low pressure and a cold front, continue to track off to the east. You can see here tonight some rain and snow showers back across western central Pennsylvania. Most of that will get hung up in that area. So by and large, looking at dry conditions, a little clearing later on here tonight, but watch these temperatures. They are going to drop below freezing with time, so any leftover standing water or slush has the potential to freeze back up. Any untreated surfaces, just watch for a few slippery spots out there. Otherwise, we get off to a sunny start on your Thursday. It'll be blustery and cold. Highs really no warmer than 32 degrees. And with the winds gusting up to 30 or so miles per hour, it'll feel much colder. Maybe a flurry or a snow shower as we get into the afternoon, early evening, and especially as we get up into the Poconos, we could be talking about a few snow squalls, something to keep in mind for travels that way as we get into the PM of your Thursday. So our forecast headlines as we end the week here, it'll be cold, limited sunshine, but otherwise largely dry conditions. The weekend, some snow possible. Saturday night into Sunday, maybe a little accumulation with that. And early next week, we've got more Arctic air, but I am tracking maybe finally an end to some of this cold weather we've had for an extended period of time. We'll detail in a bit with your 7-day forecast. Wendy and Rick, back to you.
All right, Clayton, thank you. As first responders were very busy today with the messy weather, state and county leaders gathered in Allentown tonight to highlight new investments in 911 centers across the state.
The Shapiro administration says the funding will help strengthen emergency response and support dispatchers. 69 News reporter Jessica Heisey is joining us in the studio with more on this. Jess.
Yeah, Wendy and Rick, these investments are part of the 2025-26 state budget and come from a phone surcharge that funds 911 services. State and local officials said this funding is critical, especially as technological and staffing needs continue to grow.
Pennsylvania's 911 system is the first connection to help when someone is facing their darkest moments.
The funding comes from a state phone surcharge, which state officials say supports operations, training, and technology.
The key element to this year's public safety budget is the reauthorization of the 911 fee, which is $1.95 through January 31st of 2029. Previously, that fee was at $1.65.
Lehigh County received around $9.4 million from the state last year, and PEMA says it will increase this year. Money will be used for employee retention and to keep systems updated.
Over the first 12 months after that increase, Pennsylvania collected an additional $58 million or 18% revenue boost for the 911 services, which is really critical when we take a look at the technology behind 911 and evolving the 911 system across the Commonwealth.
The investments are also funding the transition to next generation 911, a modernized system now connecting all 61 dispatch centers in PA.
The system that supports those calls, the dispatchers, the technology, the radio networks, the mapping systems, and the training all require stable funding to operate at the level our community expects.
Lehigh County handles nearly 490,000 calls each year. Local leaders say strong financial support is essential.
Keeping turnover low by investing in our workforce through effective retention of our current employees and recruitment of new employees strengthen our ability to serve the public reliably every time. When someone dials 911, they aren't thinking about funding formulas or infrastructure, but think about getting help, and it's our responsibility to make sure that help arrives without delay every single time.
The county says next-gen upgrades will improve caller location accuracy, text to 911, and response times, ensuring help arrives faster and more reliably. Wendy?
All right, thank you, Jess. Well, Vice President J.D. Vance is set to visit the Lehigh Valley next week. His trip will come just days after President Donald Trump visited the Poconos last night. And just like Trump, Vance is expected to be talking about the economy. And one of the big talking points in Trump's speech last night was the no tax on tips policy.
Yeah, the president brought a waitress on stage who works at the Arlington Diner up in Monroe County, and she thanked him for the One Big Beautiful bill, which passed earlier this year with that no tax on tips provision, which was included in it. But a waitress at the Sunrise Diner in Allentown wasn't as excited.
Because of no tax on tips, Donna estimates she will keep hundreds of additional dollars every single month, and she'll put all of that money toward her daughter's dream of becoming a veterinarian.
Most of the servers do not claim their cash tips, so I don't think that would be something that would affect them.
And in addition to the issue of not declaring cash tips on your taxes, you have to make more than the standard deduction, more than $15,750 a year for single filers for the no tax on tips provision to impact you. A more in-depth breakdown from both sides can be found on our website, WFMZ.com.
2 people are dead after a crash in Monroe County. This happened around 11 o'clock last night on Frowns Hill Road in Pocono Township. The coroner's office says 26-year-old Deontay Jordan and 27-year-old Janelle Aragon, both of New York State, died. No word yet on what led to that crash.
Authorities are warning the people to be aware of an uptick in scams this holiday season.
That's right, and I spoke with the Lehigh County Sheriff about what's happening and what to look out for on the receiving end. Lehigh County Sheriff Joe Hanna warns that his office is getting 5 or 6 calls a week. He says one scammer claimed to be a deputy from his office, claiming to have an arrest warrant. Hanna says this is not legitimate.
They're now using real names. They're doing their research, they're doing their homework. They've used a number of our deputies' names, some of our command staff.
Sheriff Hanna also says one of the challenges with these evolving cell phone calls is that it's difficult to determine exactly where these calls are originating from.
You can put Lehigh County Sheriff's Office. So I call you and you look at your ID and it says Lehigh County Sheriff's Office with our legitimate number, it's spoofed.
Police say the scammers sometimes claim to be representing well-known charities and are targeting all age groups. Here's what to look out for. Hanna says scammers often demand payment in gift cards, crypto, or payment apps. Law enforcement will never demand payment over the phone or threaten an arrest. And if the call is urgent or threatening, it's a scam.
If it doesn't seem right, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't.
So if you get a call, law enforcement says do not send money, gift cards, or give out any personal information. And if you feel like something's wrong, hang up immediately and report it to police. Well, Pennsylvania American Water is urging customers across the area to conserve water. It comes after the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection expanded their drought watch. Customers in Monroe, Northampton, and Schuylkill counties are being asked to voluntarily reduce non-essential water usage by 10 to 15%. That is about 11 to 16 gallons per day. Officials with the company say their supply is currently fine, but they want to prepare in case the drought does not improve.
There is more to come on the news at 10.
Well, the Fed cuts rates for a 3rd consecutive time. What the Reserve Chair is saying about the economy.
And coming up on the Berks edition, community members are demanding answers as they grapple with the lingering effects of what used to be the Boyertown landfill.
You're watching 69 News live at 10 with Rick Holmes, Wendy Davis, Dan Moscaratolo with sports, and meteorologist Clayton Stiver with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Federal Reserve cut interest rates for a 3rd time in a row. The central bank dropped its benchmark lending rate by a 1/4 point. This makes the range between 3.5% to 3.25%. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell spoke today on the effect the government shutdown had on the economy.
The temporary shutdown of the federal government has likely weighed on economic activity in the current quarter, but these effects should be mostly offset by higher growth next quarter, reflecting the reopening.
But today's rate cut comes as reports indicate the economy continues to struggle with inflation and slow job growth.
The Senate is heading towards dueling votes on health care. Republicans said yesterday they rallied around a plan that would allow COVID-era subsidies to expire. The Democratic plan would extend and enhance those ACA tax credits for 3 years. Both plans currently lack bipartisan support to pass.
This is life and death for people. This is having a decent life or a life where you can hardly cope if you don't get the health care that you need.
So there's a bunch of us who are willing and eager to try to find a way forward on this. And I think we've got to, bottom line, we have got to help the American people with their health care costs.
The fight over health care subsidies is one of the things that led to the government shutdown back in October. If the tax credits expire, millions of people could see increases in their premiums come January.
Some people are planning visiting the United States, and they may soon want to be careful about what they post online. That is because the Trump administration is proposing that travelers provide their social media history for the past 5 years before entering the country. The potential requirement would apply to people who use an online application for a visa waiver program. Right now, it's optional to provide social media data, but the proposal would make it mandatory.
Coming up on 69 News at 10.
40 bikes in 40 minutes. Could they assemble them? We'll tell you more about the workshop to deliver bikes to kids around our area.
And later on the Berks edition, officials are calling for safeguards as AI chatbots gain popularity. Hear from a cybersecurity expert at 10:30.
Organizations and businesses in our area banded together to build Christmas gifts for youngsters here in the Lehigh Valley. Teams from several Lehigh Valley companies, including Just Born, Lutron, Northeast Products and Services, and Ocean Spray, joined forces this afternoon to assemble 40 of these bicycles. There were 16 team members involved in building all these bikes, and the goal was to build them in just 40 minutes, but they beat that. They finished all these bikes in just 32 minutes.
That
incredible.
Is really impressive.
And a lot of happy kids are going to be getting those bikes this year. That is
nice.
So great. It is so cold out there. It's just really tough to deal with all this snow and ice right now.
Yeah, don't want to be on a bike now, Clayton.
Yeah, for sure. You want to be in the inside, you doing a workout or something like that, for sure. But how about the wintry weather today? After things started off relatively quiet, we saw a little bit of some light rain, snow, sleet mixture start to unfold as we progressed through the afternoon. Before that, temperatures topped out in the upper 30s to around 40 degrees. But then as that precipitation settled in, the rates of the precipitation started to pick up, helping to cool the atmosphere. Dynamic cooling here, certainly some cooler air aloft building down to the surface. And you can see how that temperature mid to late afternoon dropped to around 32 degrees. And in several cases, north of I-78, getting into the northern reaches of the Lehigh Valley, northern parts of Berks, higher elevation spots, that dynamic cooling did lead to a little bit of overperformance, I'd say, with some snowfall here. Yeah, we did expect at least a couple inches in the Poconos, Schuylkill County, far northwest of New Jersey, but some of these locations south of the Blue Mountain Ridgeline also picking up a couple inches. Bushkill Township, Moore Township, a little more than 2.5 inches. Neff's 2 inches, nearly 1.5 inches for Germansville and Huff's Church there in Berks County. The Poconos, parts of far northwest of New Jersey, in general, the highest amount seen here. Certainly if you get up above 1,000 feet in elevation, Scott Run at 4.2 inches, nearly 4 for Lehigh Township. Mount Pocono, a little more than 2.5 inches, 2.1 inches for Scioto, and Hackettstown checking in at 1.3 inches. But the steady accumulating precipitation is now gone tonight, and we're in general seeing mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures, Lehigh Valley south and east, above freezing. That's good news, but you'll find temperatures closer to 32 degrees across the Poconos. Maybe a stray sprinkle or a flurry still possible here early on tonight, but bottom line is getting a chance to dry things out, and we'll see a little bit of clearing sky. Notice the colder air, though, waiting in the wings behind our storm system. That settles in for your Thursday. It's a blustery one for sure. Sunshine mixing with clouds, gusty winds, and during the afternoon, early evening, watching for maybe a flurry, a snow shower, maybe even some snow squalls, though, to keep in mind for travels up towards Interstate 80 and especially north of there. So a look at the next 24 hours. Overnight lows will dip down into the 20s. Watch for a refreeze of any standing leftover water or slush. Sunshine to start your Thursday, gives way to some clouds by the afternoon. West-northwesterly winds 10 to 15, maybe gusting up to 30 miles per hour, and high temperatures only around 32 degrees, but with the wind feeling much colder. Here we are first thing tomorrow morning, single digits and teens for wind chills, and really those values get no warmer than 20 degrees even as we work into your Thursday afternoon. So the cold air continues with a persistent trough or a dip in the jet stream. Yeah, you can see how that is still locked in place right through the upcoming weekend, but watch what happens as we get into next week. That trough finally lifts out and get a little bit of warming here. That high temperature trend in the coming days showing temperatures getting back closer to seasonable levels in the middle 40s by mid to late next week. So future satellite and radar tonight, some of that clearing sky, back to some sunshine to start your Thursday. A little uptick in the clouds here for the PM. Notice that flurry or a snow shower, especially the further north you go, later afternoon into the early evening. And then we'll clear skies back out for Thursday night and Friday, looking at a mostly sunny day. Lighter winds, but it will still be cold. 26 tonight. Gradual clearing, brisk and cold west winds 10 to 20, gusting to 30, 32 tomorrow. Some sun, blustery, and maybe a few snowflakes, especially across the Poconos. Those west winds maybe gusting up to 35. There's the extended forecast. 35 the high for Friday, mostly cloudy, maybe a flurry. Most are dry, lighter winds, keeping it chilly on Saturday. A dry start to the weekend, but going to have to watch Saturday night into Sunday morning. A chance for a little bit of snow there with a clipper system. In some cases, models suggest a couple inches. So stay tuned for updates. Bottom line, more cold and gusty winds Sunday into Monday, but we will be dry moving through next week. And as said, temperatures climbing a little bit warmer by the middle of the week. Wendy and Rick, back to you.
Thanks, Clayton.
Yeah, thanks. Keep us posted, Clayton. And coming up next in sports, Lehigh football coach Kevin Cahill reflects on his multi-year extension.
Plus highlights from a pair of EPC duels featuring heavyweight programs.
It is time for sports.
Here's Dan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Nazareth Easton is one of the must-see Pennsylvania wrestling duels every season. Tonight's meeting, little extra luster with it being the 100th iteration of this rivalry. Controversial finish last year. The Blue Eagles won on criteria. What would the 100th edition provide? We start at 114, Easton down 3. Braden Abrams taking on Nazareth's Jason Nelligan. Abrams locked the leg, rolls him over, eventually gets the pin at 307. Rovers go in front 6-3. Skip ahead to 133. Tied at 9, Easton's Nicholas Salomon, the state champ, battling Nazareth's Caleb Kosovo. Look at that crazy escape by Salomon in the second. He'd go on to win the bout 8-3. Rovers up 12-9. Move ahead to 160. Easton up 22-13. Logan Young squaring off against Cade Campbell. Campbell has the leg lock, leans back, goes on to get the fall at 3:35 of the match. Blue Eagles down 22-19. Next bout at 172, Easton's Michael Zamora facing Nazareth's Dominic Tunison. Tunison able to run him, get the fall at 3:53 as the Blue Eagles go on to win the 100th meeting 32-25. Northampton hosted Becca High. The Golden Hawks falling at Emmaus last week. We spotlighted the Green Hornets and their hot start at 6 o'clock. Northampton leading 15-10 heading into the heavyweight match. Brandon McIntyre getting a huge win here, cradling Grant Mulhern, locking him in for the pin. It's 21-10. K-Kids, 127. Becca starts to take control in these weights. Jack Cole only needing 43 seconds to get the fall. And the Golden Hawks really started to pull away in the middle weights. 133 pounds. It's Reef Dillard bringing the duel home for the visitors. Another fall for Bethlehem Catholic as they bounce back from the Emmaus loss with a road win, 38-27. The girls' matchup was before the boys in Northampton, 112 pounds. Becca's Anna Truscott is able to turn over Emily Gogren, and Truscott grabs the fall 12-6. Emily Goffrin, I should say. All K-Kids, Becca only had 4 wrestlers in this one, 136 pounds. Gabby Shavir all over Paige Hoke, and Gabby powers her way to a tech fall as Northampton wins 65-12, the final in the girls' match. Let's talk a little college football. Lehigh made it official yesterday, announcing a multi-year contract extension for head coach Kevin Cahill. In his 3 years in charge, Cahill has captured back-to-back Patriot League titles. That was off a 2-9 season his first year. He was named the FCS National Coach of the Year this season for a record-setting 12-1 campaign. We were able to catch up with Coach Cahill earlier today. He's excited to be staying in Bethlehem and take the program to new heights.
We've got growth to be had here in our football program. So President Helbley was a big piece of this, and Jeremy Gibson, our Dean of Athletics, is a big piece of this. And I have visions for where I think we can go, and I think they share that vision. And how we're going to get there together is working together.
And good for Lehigh to keep him there. You do that at Lehigh in the Patriot League. You're going to get some other programs coming and knocking.
Absolutely.
So
good momentum.
They're keeping him here. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. It is time now for tonight's commentary.
Here's Dick Dean.
Now, as best we know, the deadline for Hamas, the surrender of Hamas, is still over, even though they're not really gone from their tunnels and their hideouts. The news from that side of the border is that the rifle shooting still going on in Gaza is primarily the assassination of Palestinians who are being seen as traitors to Hamas. There's little to no lethal action against the Israelis who are still on site, which is the impression we get. At this stage of the skirmishes, there is no action from Iran with rockets and drones, as far as we're told. Any likelihood of a return to significant warfare in the near future would appear unlikely, although nothing is really secure in that neighborhood if the wind changes, or if the UN should get a new surge of directives from Muslims and Arab members who traditionally dominate the UN elections along with the ever-present anti-Semites. Truth is that the chosen directors in the presidential administration are literally holding the trump cards, and the relationship he has cultivated with the Mideast nations and with Europe are not in the least bit fragile while he remains in office. Now, if that should suddenly change for any reason, all bets are off, and we're back in the saddle with a fresh leader who has no stirrups, no reins, and a rider who requires a soft cushion between him and his horse.